Hi, welcome and namaste to the Yoga Out of the Box podcast. This podcast aims to unite the yoga community to bring yoga to all people by making it simple and accessible in your daily life, as well as bringing yoga teachers closer together, help them to learn and share and exchange with each other that around the globe. Today, I had a really fun conversation, and I really enjoyed this with Ana because we was trying to organize this for a while now, and it was just super fun. It's a super nice exchange. Ana is a yoga teacher and breathwork facilitator, originally from Spain, moved through India to Australia, where she's living now with Ryan. You had maybe already an impression about Ryan on one of the previous episodes. And it was just a super nice chat because we had a few interesting topics from her journey, how life sometimes went, and how breathwork and yoga can facilitate each other. And I think for everyone there is something in there. I hope you guys enjoy it as entertainment, as learning, and as kind of connection to others. And yeah, I hope you already did your Karma Yoga, you shared this podcast, you maybe leave a good review. If you haven't yet, feel free to do so. This really supports us and the whole project. Yeah, let's dive right into it. Hi, Ana. How are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm very good today.
I'm good, thank you. For the audience who may not already know you, could you shortly introduce yourself and give us a kind of backstory to you?
So my name is Ana. I'm originally from Spain, but I live in Australia. Before all my yoga breathwork journey started, I used to be a teacher, primary teacher and Spanish language literature in Spain. Then I finished uni and I started traveling the world. I lived for a few years in Brazil, then to Central America, then come back to Europe, and then I ended in Australia where I discovered yoga and actually get super into breathwork as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of the background. My life changed so much.
Yeah, that sounds like super interesting. I will go to Brazil this November, end of November for winter time. So I definitely get some tips from you. So I think let's go a step back. When you say you started as a just normal teacher and you started traveling, what was it that first get you try yoga out or get you hooked in yoga?
So my first contact with yoga was actually in Brazil, because I follow an influencer, Brazilian influencer that is called Mila Monteiro. And I follow her for the philosophical insight and the self-inquiry things. And she was also a yoga teacher. So I was interested in that, but my knowledge of yoga was just asana based. It was okay, yoga is postures. That's it. And then when I moved to Australia, I saw this is the most superficial reason to start yoga, but it was the hook for me. I saw a scorpion pose, a photo of a lady with a scorpion pose, and I was telling my friend, I'm gonna do that. I want to do that. I used to train rhythmics when I was younger. And so that was kind of a little remind me of my old training. Yeah, I used to start classes. I became very obsessed with that from the beginning, very consistent. And then the whole world of yoga opened up to me. So it was very beautiful. Sometimes people judge, yoga is not just asana, but it's always a point to enter. There's always a hook, and that was my hook. Now my yoga practice is nothing to do with that anymore, but yeah.
But that's interesting. That's a super good point. I think, like you said, nowadays everything is a bit moving away again, or at least if to this podcast, a lot of people listening, which are already started maybe their yoga journey or already are tuned our yoga teachers and, want to get more depth into their practice. And I think a lot of people can, if you have done everybody starts with the asana. And at some point you maybe miss a bit the feeling of, oh yeah, there's so much more to it. But like you said, it's like always the first point, and it's, something which can get you like so easily in. You remember which was the first class you took? Which kind of style, or what was the teaching about?
It was a vinyasa class.
Okay, so a bit more flowy side. Yeah.
Very
That's
flowy, very intense. But I loved it. And I think for me, the philosophical cues that the teacher was giving to me was that the reason that she made me come back every day. And that was the reason also I did my yoga teacher training, because I didn't want to be a yoga teacher. I just did this yoga training because I want to know more about philosophy. And usually when you go to yoga classes, that is actually asana classes, you get so little of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't totally get it. I think it was for me some day back. It was something like the same. That's interesting. So, when you say you never wanted to teach in the first hand, you just did it for yourself? How did you make the decision to do the teacher training, or how long did you practice before even? That was very interesting.
So before I was practicing maybe for a year.
Yeah.
By that time, I also discovered like Ashtanga practice.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I have a decent level in the serious one, I will do the teacher training. But this story is very interesting because I was in Australia. I traveled to Spain, come back to my work as a teacher. And I was in my way to an interview to another city in my car, with ready to move with all my stuff. And then stopping the way, I opened an old diary that I forget in that car. And the diary was about my travels, I was like, wow, I don't want to move to another city. I don't want to teach. I already have like a bittersweet relationship with teaching in my country because I'm not agree with the mainstream educational system there. So I was like, what I'm doing this? So I had a note about all the things that I want to learn, and yoga teacher training was one of the things in the list. I was like, I'm going to go to India. I didn't even do research. People go to India to do the teacher training, and I just go into the book yoga retreat.com. The first one, I was like, I was someone hot.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to go to Rishikesh or something like that because I don't like cold. So I was like, Tropical Sur Barkala. I just book it. I come back to my house and I tell my mom, I'm not teaching. I'm going to India to do a yoga teacher course.
Yeah, that has to be like a big shift.
Yeah, so 1 month after I was in India.
Wow. That went super quickly. But I think most of the time, the best things have to happen like this. You have to have this calling. And I think that's always like one of both motivations. You have to go through something and you have to go, to be drawn to something, or you have to be put and pushed to something. In this case, it's like a good combination of both.
Honestly, it's very nice because, I have the cliche story like, I went to India and changed my life, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
That changed my life. That is when I decided, okay, I'm giving up the teaching thing. I will come back to Australia because yoga was like have more visibility in Australia, more audience than when I'm from in Spain, I guess, back that time in 2019. There in yoga, in India, I discovered pranayama breathwork, and it's when I became very obsessed with that.
That's super
meant
interesting.
To be,
Yeah. Sometimes it happens like this, right?
Mm.
And I mean, in the end, it was like the right decision till now for you. You never regret to be back as a teacher in Spain?
No, because I teach now. I teach kids as well, like breathwork. I've been working in childcare here in Australia. I teach adults, I do events, I do retreats. So no, it's like I like teaching, so I'm doing that. It's just I'm teaching different things.
Wow, but I think this is like even like a super interesting point or super important point, because I see a lot of people, sometimes even like when they change their life or they have this kind of experience, they think, oh wow, I have to change like everything. But you did something before as well because of a good reason. Maybe it was not like because of the educational system. Maybe it was, sometimes there are a lot of things like which are let's say, obstacles in our way. But it's not always just about like these obstacles. It's always to see in there, okay, I'm good in teaching, or I like teaching in general. So I just maybe have to change what I want to teach, right? This is super cool.
No, sometimes it's not just obstacles, it's lack of space. If I don't give up my teaching in Spain, I don't have a space for study as much as I did, I practice as much as I did, and an open mind to receive other possibilities.
Yeah.
It's just not it wasn't an obstacle for me, I think, but it was like,
you couldn't express yourself this way. That's cool. If you see, I mean, you did like this decision pretty quickly. If you have now people who were maybe just starting out with a yoga journey or thinking about, okay, changing this. So for you, even like moving to Australia, this is like a big step for most people, like just going out of home. Do you have like an advice how you would say you could change your life, or you like more find your kind of purpose? Because afterwards it always sounds easy. I always had it on the list and then I did it. But I think it needs like a lot of courage in the moment to build up this, okay, I go now to India and then
Look, first of all, I think when you do things from the heart, universe, and you take the leap, universe also have the saving net, the security net for you. But the India decision, that was a consequence of many past decisions in where I was very impulsive. Like when I moved from Spain the first time 4 years before, that was an impulsive decision as well. So I've been practicing being confident, taking risks. So at the beginning, I took little risks. I thought that I was fine. Then a little bit bigger. And now, I've been traveling for 10 years. So now I think I have developed a confidence okay, it doesn't matter where I'm in the world, I'm going to make it work. And also a lot of consistency and practice behind that, because my yoga practice was very consistent. My study in breathwork, I was obsessed, I promise you. That happened before COVID. So COVID for me was like, great, I have a lot of time to study, be a nerd, and do all these practices that I usually have no time. So it's something that you build up. It's just exposure. Taking risk and take this big decision is exposure, and commit with your decision. You take a decision and you commit to that. You don't doubt. Once you take it, you don't doubt.
This is a great reminder.
Yeah.
You see, this is funny because in my story was something like really similar. When you say this, there's always a kind of safety net from the universe, but you have to do like this first step and you have to jump out of your comfort zone to find something you really want to fulfill. So it makes absolutely sense to me. When you say you get like obsessed with pranayama, you remember when you so what was like the first thing which got you hooked, or what was it? It was more like the theoretical part, or it was actually the experience itself?
So I was suffer for chronic sinusitis for almost 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So my first class of pranayama that they've been doing Nadi Shodhana and stuff, I was taking notes. I couldn't physically do it. Which, that was in India, okay? So I did a little bit of pranayama before in classes, but because I was heating up, I could breathe. But in India, if I was like, so I remember this, the pranayama teacher, very typical Indian professor, all white beard, white clothes, dark humor, with a very, very dark humor. He was like poking me all the time, every class, because he made fun of me, like taking notes and couldn't breathe. And I think he had a lot of like compassion for me. He started to give me a lot of oils and stuff so I can try. Also, in my course, one of the assistants was very into detoxification practices, raw food, fasting. Yeah, we get along, and he taught me some stuff. And 1 week later, I could breathe. And for me, I was experimenting the power of the breath from an adult mind, because I never take it for granted. So it was very powerful for me, just the fact that I wake up in the morning and I could breathe through my
Breathe.
nose. That was a huge stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine this is like kind of, life quality changing like 100% if you have like the first time real experience that.
Yeah, 100%. And before that, in India, I just assumed that my life, okay, I breathe through my mouth when I exercising, and because I've been really active my whole life, I got used to it. But then I didn't realize that carry as well, like mood swing, tendency to depression. I was very fiery because I couldn't manage my feelings very good. And it's all because I couldn't breathe. So discovering that for me, like knowing about the relationship of my physical and mental state with the breath, I was like, all of a sudden I have a new drug. And I wanted to, yeah, I think, and I want everybody to know what I was feeling. I was like, if you can feel that too, So yeah, I think that was my hook.
That's great. Because I think even like, when you have had the experience of like not getting enough air or like being like stuck in that, it's like even more that you know the value of it and you can share this with people. So you said you made also like a breath work teacher training or instructor training.
Yeah.
And you get completely nerdy while COVID. It was the same time.
No, so this was 4 or 5 months after India. So after India, I come back to Spain and then I come back to Australia. And in Australia, I think because I was searching about breathwork a lot in my computer, at the same time I was searching flights to come back to Australia. All of a sudden, I get one of the ads in Facebook, like,
Yeah.
oh, advanced breathwork workshop in Gold Coast. That is when I went in my place there back that time on my birthday. And I was like, I'm going to book it. This is a sign. So that was my first, that wasn't a teacher training. That was a workshop. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then me and my teacher get really well along. We became friends. He helped me heaps during COVID, like sending me resources, helping him to run workshops. And 2 years later or 1 year later, I did my teacher training with them. So
this is again like
Australia, and I'm still going with them. Like,
yeah, but this is again like amazing. How if you expose yourself to things and like to situations and like even to opportunities, how things open up to you, and then you're just like, oh yeah, I do this, and you're like, okay, I'm engaged with that, and then you get like into this kind of instructor stuff. That's great.
It was so funny because that workshop, my English level back the time, I think 5 years ago, was shit. And I was so self-conscious about that and so anxious that I convinced my friends, like, my Latin backpacker friends, to come with me to the workshop because I didn't want to go alone. So I sell the experience to them. I have no idea, but I was like, this is fun, this ice bath, and there is this guy in the mountain. He looked like a Viking. It's gonna be super nice. So it was me and my 3-4 friends with me, like totally out. They didn't know anything about it. Yeah. So
Even great to build up this motivation for other people just
yeah.
because you really want to do that. So how does your self-practice looks nowadays?
The what?
Your
Sorry?
self-practice when you're practicing like yoga or you're practicing breathwork. I experienced that even sometimes the first things which get us hooked are not necessarily the things which get us like stuck with something for longer.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I experienced that even like my physical practice changed a lot, or I talked to a lot of people which like start super hard and now they get more and more into the meditative space. And the same for people doing breath work. How is it about you?
So in the breathwork scene, like when I started, was more like Wim Hof based, tumor breathing, like intense rapid breathing. My practice today is completely the opposite. It's just gentle breathing, a lot of apnea, like breath holdings, CO2 tables, like just the opposite, like holding my breath. I wash my dishes and I just hold my breath and count how many dishes I can clean, like holding my
Oh,
breath.
wow.
I
That's
do a
integrated.
yeah, or I count like the step that I can do without breathing, and then if do I do during my asana practice before, yeah, I do a little bit of Nadi Shodhana, Samavriti, this kind of like very very gentle, yeah, balancing kind of breath work. I do. It's true that Tumo breathing or breath work that is like more intense, rapid breathing. I do that maybe once per month or one every 3 weeks if I feel like I want to energetically discharge more or I want to get more into my subconscious. I do this practice, but I don't do it like every day. No, it's very
But this is interesting because it's like a kind of more like, let's say, relatable for a lot of people or more usable, because I think everybody who experienced like once like a tumor breath or like this Wim Hof method, it's like super intense experience and it's like great, but imagine doing this like every day or like, I don't know, every week, like can be like super overwhelming, I guess.
And it's not just emotionally overwhelmed because I think you need time for integrating those things, but I think it's also physically is
Mm-hmm.
not healthy in terms of that affect to the balancing of our breathing ratio. Like we usually have to breathe less,
Yeah.
and we already breathe too much because this practice is about rapid breathing. It's going to increase your breathing daily rate, and we don't want that. If we practice every day, if you do it once every week or one a month, obviously it's not going to affect much. But what you want to do is like your formal practice when you sit and do breath work is breathe less
Oh,
always.
wow.
Yeah, that's what we want. So
I
you
I
breathe less, but your breath is more efficient.
I wrote once this book, but it's already like a few years ago from James Nestor. Maybe you already know it, like breath. Yeah, it was like so super interesting how many like effects breathing can have on us. Maybe you can, for people who, like I said, starting out their yoga journey or already like in the 200-hour teacher training, and they look like for something more specific. I think this breathwork stuff is like something so powerful. Maybe you can explain some of the health benefits or some of the what you get out of your practice for yourself.
The yoga practice or the breathwork practice?
The breathwork practice.
So the way you breathe is the way you live, okay? Like, for example, there is when you are happy, you have a specific breathing pattern. When you are anxious, when you are angry, there is certain highlight moments in our life during the day that, for example, that requires as well the breath. For example, when you make love, when you go for a run, when you go nature, the instinct of every human being when they arrive to nature is like it's instant. Everybody do it like so be aware of that. It's very important to be more present in your life, but it's also to be more to know yourself better. For example, if I feel anxious, but I know what my breathing pattern when I'm calm is, I just have to breathe as I'm calm. It's like pretending fake it until you make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
There is a breathing technique, it's called coherence breathing, that is very simple. It's breathing in for 5 seconds, breathing out for 5 seconds during 5 minutes. That exercise is actually like stabilizing your heart rate at rest again. So if you're feeling anxious, you do this breathing for 5 minutes and you reset your emotional feel and your emotional state, which is awesome. It's like how quick breath work is, how immediate. It's not something that you have to be practicing for years to notice that result is instant. And for come back to the present moment is same. With meditation, sometimes you sit and you use go places, and you have to come. If you focus in the breathing, there is no way that you focus in the past or in the future because breathing doesn't. You cannot think in a breath that just gone. So I think it's very powerful thing just to come back to what is important.
Yeah, I think because it's like so usable in your day-to-day life, for me, for example, like meditation was always something which was like super, super hard to quiet my mind and just sit still. But when I did like the first time a breath work with a friend of mine, it was the same. It was like, oh wow, this is how meditation could feel like, right?
Yeah.
And even more like to use this in your day-to-day life when you have stress situations. That's crazy.
And also, when you start to get into yoga, you have to understand that asana practice and breath work is just the step previous the meditation stage. So you are practicing asana because you want to open up the channels. You do the breath work because you want to access and make these channels more accessible, and then the body is ready to get to meditation. That's why like every part is important, even the yamas and niyamas, and maybe some people just overlook.
Yeah.
I think everything, all the steps are important. And for me, like with my yoga practice, it's true that since I get into breath work, I understand my asana practice was a way for me to breathe better. The way I've been progressing in a posture, I realized I was progressing in a posture because I realized I could breathe better in the posture. When you have a right alignment, for example, in Trikonasana, that is a posture, triangle pose that everybody knows.
Mm.
So some people cannot do the right, the right alignment, or what they say that right. I told people when I'm teaching, like, don't get so fast in the alignment. Just try to breathe good. If you are forcing an alignment, you're gonna feel your breathing compromised. Step back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by breathing there and consistency, you will open and you will get to the full posture. But it's just, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had like another interview yesterday with John Scott. I don't know if you know him. He's like one of these yeah, let's say former Ashtanga teachers. And he was explaining something really, really similar to me because he was also like, okay, it's so much more about the breath in the pose. And, even like this experience your body in the pose can bring you like way further than just like, I want to achieve this special kind of asana and it has to look like this. No, it's more about like this breathing and experience yourself in this situation. And like you said, even in your day-to-day life, if you can change your mood and you can experience yourself, this can be so, so valuable, right?
I love that.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. When you talk about like breath work and like your teaching of yoga, how do you teach nowadays? So you do like mainly teachings for like groups, or you teach like private clients, or how does it work for you?
So at the moment, I have weekly breathwork classes in person. I have events like workshops that maybe once per month, and retreats. So apart from that, I have one-on-one mentorship online that I also teach breathwork, and I do a one-on-one session for people. But mostly, like, yeah, it's just teaching. I love teaching in person. And because I also know that my English is not perfect, I think when I'm in person, I can compensate that with others,
Your
with my
energy.
and the touching and the, making jokes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think this is much more important. Like, in the end, teaching is holding space. And for me, it's also like a kind of self-experience, right? Or something you learn while you're teaching yourself about yourself and about the person. And it's often that, I mean, my English is neither perfect. It's far away from that, but it gives you like, it's never about like the cueing or like the exact how you described how to put your hand in the right point or anything. It's more about like creating the space for other people. So I think this is like super interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think? How did your style of teaching change from the beginning to now? Do you have anything where you say, oh, okay, this was something I really discovered for myself?
There is two main things with my breathwork events and workshops, and when I teach in group, it's about the breath, but it's also about nature connection and community. I think over different cultures and over the years, breathwork in its different ways of practicing is being a bonding experience. For example, like gospel singing is actually breathing. When people are singing together, they are breathing at the same time. That is very bonding.
Oh,
Like
wow.
even in the
Yeah.
Sufi culture as well, like all the strenuous exercise of the spiralizing is just like a way of over breathing together. So they have this, how do you say,
High
like
states of mind.
the altered state of consciousness as well. Even like the in Australia, the playing of the didgeridoo, the long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is like a circular breathing for hours. That can cause you that feeling of
Oh, this is interesting. I haven't made this connection. It changed the perspective completely.
So for me, I think it's the kind of teaching that I enjoy the most because I'm giving space for people to found themselves, to connect with themselves, but also to bond with a community. That after COVID, I think is very important. And for me, it's a highlight. I don't know,
Understand
like
that.
people, we have the experience and then we sit in circle, we share, and people open up a lot. And most of them, they don't know each other. So have that safe space of healing and also supporting each other because in one of my workshops that we do like breath through breath work that is like more intense, it's similar to tumor breathing. I do the metaphor of climbing a mountain together. So every breath is a step.
Up.
So I tell people like don't give up. Every time you breathe, you are encouraging the person next to you to keep breathing. So we are gonna climb everybody together. We're not letting anybody behind. And people visualize that. And it's beautiful to see when everyone is laying down and you are seeing all the chest lifting together, going down together. It's look like a big land, like the ground is breathing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And of course that is bonding, So that is what I want to, because at the end I cannot control what people gonna have from that experience, and I don't want to control. Like this is a tool of self development and self learning, and so I just put the space from the guidance, and I love it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, you can see that you really enjoy that, what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, I love it so much.
But this is like, yeah, it completely changes perspective. It makes absolutely sense to me. And I mean, even in yoga, because often you know how to describe it. I think at the moment we have like a big like movement in this well-being space, and everything is like always moving further, and of course through social media there are so much more like different like branches out of yoga or like well-being, and some people like looking for stuff which they can integrate. And I think it's like super interesting to make this connection and like create it again. You create a space and you create union between people. And in the end, this is what yoga really means, right? Beside the asana part, beside like the philosophical part or the meditation, it doesn't have to be always just this way or this way. You can like find something and you can make like a connection between people. And this is so awesome. And
They
this
don't
sounds
even
amazing.
have to talk. That is the craziest stuff. They feel bond without talking.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's because it's a real experience, right? And
Yeah.
like you said, it's just after COVID where all of us had like this, even more this feeling of separation and anxiousness. I think it's something real. And nowadays, the world is moving more and more into this direction of like digitalization, AI, and social media. And so again, like having something like this, which is like really, I mean, everybody who had like the experience of like a real breathwork session with a group of people, it's something different, right? It's something you can really experience, and it's like, wow, I'm alive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the nature thing as well. I try to do events in nature because people have to come back to those places as well. I think that nature is being seen lately as a place to go, like that is apart from your work. Like it's your work and then I go nature. You know?
Yeah. It's a kind of sad, right? It's not anymore like part of like a normal day-to-day life, even if people like living in the big cities or something like that.
Yeah, so that's, I think that's maybe it's more like retreat oriented kind of teaching.
And
So,
that's
and also the free diving stuff, that is an add-on, everything.
yeah, and this even connects great to your breath works, right? And what you say. Do you do anything like when you say you do this free diving, like to prepare for that? Beside like your normal breath holds while washing dishes and walking?
So I did a course. Like I read it in James Nesta, the author from Breath. He has another book called Deep, which is my favorite book ever. Like it's so nice.
Okay, we'll put the link below in the episode description. Yeah.
This book talk about free diving and the relation with breathwork, and for me it was like the next level. I just want to do it from one place to another in Australia, and I did the course. And the beautiful thing is, free diving is not about learning; it's about remembering. Like human, we have the same dive reflex that a dolphin has. So, which is very interesting when you get these teeth on wet in a water, you actually experience vasoconstriction and your heart rate lower. So you consume less oxygen. So your body is prepared for that. Your body can naturally go deep. So it's beautiful going on a retreat or seeing a course, and one person that haven't dived in their lives can do like 15 meters in a weekend. So they feel like superhuman. And I think it's I remember that how much potential we as a human actually have. So it's yeah, beautiful. And it's just the breath, you know.
Yeah, it's like the most basic like thing of our life, right? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, Anna, that was like amazing. Thanks so much for all these insights. If people would like to know more about you, or would like to get in touch with you, what would be the best opportunity or the best channel?
Yeah, probably Instagram. And from Instagram, you can get all the links from my website and everything. But my Instagram is Balbux, Balbux.
We'll link this as well.
Yeah, it's all about connecting. All that I have up there is about connecting. So yeah, just send me a message. I will be happy to chat. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, great. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
And we are out again. Guys, like always, thank you so much for listening, for sticking around as long as here. And yeah, I hope, like always, there was something in there. I hope I can like leave all the links to the book and resources below. And like ever, if you have questions to me, if you have questions to Anna, feel free to reach out to us and ask. And please consider to leave a good review, to share the podcast and maybe the episode if you enjoyed it. And yeah, hope to hear you next time. Bye and namaste.